Yeshua said that it will be very difficult for the rich man to be saved. And there's a reason to that, but not only that, there's a reason why the Satan would counterfeit it in the kind of world in which it appears that the rich man, it's easy for him to be saved. It appears today we live in a world where it seems that the richer you are, the more giving you can be. And there's some a deception there, and I want to talk about it. Now just remember, salvation is a gift. It's not by your deeds. It just means that a rich person is less likely to desire the gift of salvation, because his ego is more like, oh, I can achieve things, I don't need anybody. So that's basically the issue. Because salvation, it's easy for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're tall, short, strong, weak, wheelchair or fast runner. It doesn't matter, because salvation is a gift that just, as I said at some point, you have to confess that Yeshua is your Adon and believe that Elohim raised him from the dead. So you say, if that's the case, what's the difference between if you're rich or poor? In that sense, it doesn't make any difference. It's always easy. But he's talking about in the sense that rich people do have a tendency to think that they can achieve things by themselves, and they look for more worldly solutions. And that's in that sense he's talking. Now, the Satan is counterfeiting in the world. It appears that the more rich you are, you're more giver. And I want to talk about it in three different aspects. One aspect is in an absolute measure. And that's true. The more money you have, the more you give. And then billionaires give more money than poor people. And it doesn't matter if they're evil or, unless they totally don't give out of totally selfish. But today the tax laws are such that rich people would give even if they don't want to give. They can be the most cool-hearted people, and they will still give to charities just because of tax breaks and stuff. So there's no competition there. Okay? So that's one aspect. The second aspect is in percentage. Who gives more, rich or poor? And again, I believe that rich are more likely to give 10%. 10% is a requirement, basically. It's a spiritual requirement. And I think it's also a spiritual requirement from the Satan, because he also wants to use money for his agenda. He might even ask more, but he definitely reward the people that follow his agenda, and he definitely has a contact with them that they have to use part of his money to build more his agenda. And you'll see that most of the things that, if you look at what the Satan is trying to build in one world order, which is one political system, one financial system, one religious system, and you see that people who donate to those causes are really rich people, and they do it willingly. And I believe that's part of the game. So it comes with percentage, who gives more, rich or poor. I still think the rich might have a bit of advantage here, maybe. It's kind of even. A lot of poor people also give 10% of what they have. But again, that's not what Yeshua was talking about. There's a third aspect, and I want to talk about it, and that's where the difference comes. How much you give in out of yourself. How much you have to sacrifice when you give in something. For example, a poor person, when he gives money, even if it's 10%, it costs him something. He has to give up something. Eventually, he has to compromise, because he makes so much money, and when he gives 10% of that, it's going to cost something out of his own life. His life standard is going to change a bit because of this gift. And that's why the gift is important, because it's not just throwing away money. It's actually the sense that you are willing to sacrifice something out of your own life in order to benefit somebody else. And that's the significant. When a rich person gives, doesn't matter how much he gives. If you're a billionaire and you give $500 million, you don't have to give up anything out of your life. Your lifestyle stays the same, because basically when you're a rich person, you've got so much excess that you don't even know about it. It's all numbers. It's basically ego, to build your ego. But really, there's so much a person can use for his own life. So once you give beyond it, your life doesn't change. It's not like you're a billionaire and I say, oh, I'll give to charity, so today we can't go out for dinner, or I won't be able to go to the movie, or I have to skip this vacation. No, your life is basically stays exactly the same. And that's where we're different, when the poor people actually are more generous in that sense.